We grew up at Sacred Heart,
Okay.
Chapel. My grandmother lived on 33rd Street. My parents lived on 31st. My aunts and uncles lived on 36th Street, all the way by South Branch Library. We were spread out, but it was all pretty much the South Lorain.
Okay. And then, do you know, did most of the people in your neighborhood kind of attend Sacred Heart, or?
Pretty much. Most of the friends you make, it's usually, when we were at Sacred Heart, it was every Monday night. I think it was catechism. And so that's when we knew Monday night, parents dropped us off and we had to go do a catechism. So most of the friends from high school you have, usually were from Sacred Heart. I was like, and then you branched out and it was just, yeah, pretty much.
Now, the block that I lived on West 19th Street, was like 98% Italian.
Okay.
And we did I could even tell you the names of the people that lived on that street. I remember
On your
them.
whole block.
But we, of course, in those days, there were street cars. We didn't have cars. So we were allowed to play in the road. And whenever there was a pole, a telephone, an electric pole there, and we would put our ear against the pole and you could hear that the streetcar was coming, and then you all got off the road.
Oh, wow.
And we also, on that street, whenever it rained, the sewers were so bad it would flood, and all the kids would wade in the water, except me. My parents would not let me go in the water, but I can still see all those kids frolicking around in that water in the road.
Do you know when your family moved to Lorain?
My grandparents, on both sides, came from Poland.
Okay.
And I think my dad's side came in port in New Jersey. I don't know where my mother's folks came in. Whether it was New York or not, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know why they chose to come here?
Well, my grandfather, on my mother's side, was in infantry in Poland, and he wanted to get out because he didn't. It was World War One.
Okay.
And I don't know much about World War One, and insofar as, but he wanted to get out, and things were not going well over there, so he came here.
Okay.
And my grandfather, on my dad's side, I don't know why they came.
What was the neighborhood like that you lived in?
There were 50 kids, at least, from one short block, and we all got along. I mean, they were from the ages of maybe 3 years old up to 18, but there were 50 kids.
Wow. Would you say that it was a diverse neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe it?
Well, we have Italians, we had Polish, we had the Irish, of course, and then a few other nationalities, but it was mostly Polish, Irish, and Italian.
Okay. Did you share meals with your friends of different backgrounds? And
Yes,
different
in fact, I
families?
did forget one. My next door neighbors were Serbian Orthodox.
Okay.
And back then, your neighbors were like family. And growing up, I had 2 Christmases and 2 Easters. We celebrated Orthodox Christmas and we celebrated regular Christmas, and same with the Easters. We celebrated Orthodox and we celebrated regular. And at their Orthodox Christmas, they had what they called a dime bread. A dime was baked into it, and whoever got the dime would have good luck for the rest of the year.
What is one of your family's favorite traditions or meals?
It's hard because my grandmother's not doing well as she used to be, and so when we can, we try. This year, every year we try to get together, and for the holidays, you already know we're going to have pasteles and pastelillos, and there's a day where we all have to get together to make all that. Grandma can't do all the work anymore, and so there we have assembly lines where we make Spanish food for the holidays. I think all of us, you don't want to do it at first, but then while you're doing it, you realize the value in it. sitting there, just being with the family and getting this task accomplished. That's my favorite.
I always knew I was Italian, but I never became aware that I was proud of my Italian heritage until I became an adult.
Okay.
Children don't think of that, I think, you know? But, and then you have the mafia, you know, you're associated with the mafia, and
Sure.
everybody thinks,
Just that stereotype.
yeah. But I was always, I'm proud of my Italian heritage. I don't mind telling anybody I'm Italian.
And I never asked enough questions, regret it.
Okay.
I ended up in Liverpool, England, when we took troops in, that's where we went, Liverpool. And one time they let me have a day off, and I went to Manchester, and it was the Manchester area where my grandparents came from, on my father's side. And our name is unusual in that there's a D and an I in the middle.
Right.
The genealogists claim at one time all of the Sandfords, the Sandfords, and the Sandifords were all Sandifords. But because of poor spelling and whatever, they started dropping
Letters.
some of the letters out. I don't know. I suspected, I looked at a chart as we're off, Norway is 2,000 miles long, and Germany owned all of Norway, and we're on a slow ship, and that storm was only letting us do 4 knots. That's 5 miles an hour.
Oh.
That's bicycle speed, slow bicycle speed. Anyhow, I was looking at a chart of Norway, and I saw a town called Sandefjord. And I thought, how likely is it that some Norwegians got into Scotland and England and used the name Sandefjord, and an Englishman say, "Did you say Sandefjord?"
Can you tell me a little bit about your family's cultural and ethnic backgrounds? Like where your family came from when they
England.
from England?
My mother's family came from England. My father's family came from Wales.
Okay. Do you know about when they came over?
Well, my grandmother was about 6 years old when they came over. And it's an interesting tale because the boat was lost at sea.
Oh, wow.
And there were no airplanes, nothing to check what happened to it.
Sure.
And they were all pronounced, the ship was pronounced gone. Everybody was gone on the boat. But the boat came in the harbor 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
And they found it right into a storm and was blown off course.
Wow.
And there are other people in Lorain that were on that boat.
What role did your ethnicity or your family's cultural background have in your daily life as a child?
Well, my folks spoke Polish when they argued, and I never did learn the language.
Okay.
And I was sorry I never did. My brain doesn't think that way because as I got older, when I was older, I asked my mother to teach me, and my brain and my tongue just don't work together.
Sure.
So I never did learn another language.
Did you have any like family traditions or recipes?
Yeah, Christmas, my folks would go to midnight mass, and then we would get up. Well, after midnight mass, we opened the gifts and that, but they weren't very much. When I think about the holidays, I'm not a Christmas person, and I just go through the formality because it's what are you going to do? And we would get socks and maybe one toy and underwear for Christmas. And then Easter. Well, I don't know about the other Catholic churches, but the Nativity Church would have what they call a pointy. And that was a square wafer about maybe 6 inches long, 4 inches wide. And we would break it off of each other's. Everybody in the family would get part of it. And then you break a piece off from your you're my sister and my parents, and you wish them good luck for the next year. I thought that was a real nice
Yeah.
custom. And Easter, well, we had the Easter baskets and that. It was just, but I'm more of a spring person, and I liked Easter better.
Tell me about your family, your parents, your siblings.
My mother and father were both born in Cleveland. My father's parents came over from England. I don't know what year, in the early 1890s, or
Okay.
my dad was born in 1898 in Cleveland. My mother was born in Cleveland. Her mother was a Clevelander. She was Irish, but her mother came from Ireland way back.
It just seems like the older I get, the more Italian-y I get. I do not speak Italian.
Okay.
I do not understand Italian. My mother's parents, my grandmother did not speak English. My grandfather spoke broken English. I know some phrases in Italian because whenever we went to his house, he would always say, "Come sta?" which means, "How are you?" And so we were taught to say, "Bene, grazie, lei come sta?" which means, "Fine, thank you, how are you?" And then when we left, we had to say, "Buonasera," that means good night, you know. And when I first brought my husband to meet my grandfather, he was excited because my husband spoke Italian and understood Italian.